think there are people, I think you're one of them actually, who you go through some extraordinarily difficult times, but you don't interpret it that way. I mean, the way we interpret our environment is everything, right? That leads me to thinking about recruiting and how you get at the individuals who really are able to take something that's really challenging and make something good out of it. That's their nature. And how much can you teach that?
This is the Leave It Better podcast, powered by the Side Out Foundation. Here's your host, Hall of Fame coach, Janice Kruger.
In this episode, we talk with Pat Sullivan. Who is Pat Sullivan? Well, let me just go. Pat Sullivan was my collegiate volleyball coach and probably a teacher of some classes. And actually, I think I was able to I was on her swim team for like one semester, and I wasn't a great swimmer, but I tried. Pat Sullivan was the head coach at the University of Nebraska, the first head coach there, and was a woman who was fighting for the rights of the female athlete to be able to compete, to have things that allowed them to experience the joys and the benefits of being in a college volleyball program, or for that matter, in any program where women had the opportunity to be involved in athletics. I'm trying to think back of the very first time that I met Pat Sullivan. And all I can picture is room 313 in a second floor gymnasium space where she walks in, and she is the next volleyball coach that I'm going to have the opportunity to play for. And I think I remember her asking me, is this something you really want to do? And I was just like, yeah, I'm here. I love this game. I love this university, and I'm ready to do what you want me to do here in terms of playing for this sport with my teammates. I've always thought she was a marvelous teacher, and she talks about some of that and her deepest thoughts in trying to understand the human condition, or the way to relate to all the different players on her team with different experiences, different backgrounds, different levels of everything, and how that was such a high priority for her. And I think I can say that there's probably not one of her players who didn't feel as though, Pat and them were so connected. Like they were just so connected. Pat got them. And it always did feel like she was there with the right way to get you to understand something. And she talks about that and just how she looks at that in the way of trying to find the best way to motivate somebody, or the best way to get them to do their best, and also the best way to get a team of players to work together to really make it as one. We start the episode with Pat looking at a photo of the first volleyball team at the University of Nebraska. And you see the smiles on those faces, and it brings back so many memories of just a phenomenal time to be a part of women's athletics at the beginning. It's a sisterhood that I guess goes for what we're talking about 55 years at this point in time. And we're still texting and chatting on Facebook with each other about the sport. Pat, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Janice.
Okay, a little bio here. Pat coached collegiate volleyball from 1969 to 1987. She started out in the high school ranks, coached collegiately at Smith College, the University of Nebraska, and 9 years at George Washington University. Pat's 17-year coaching career has an amazing record of 403 victories and only 162 setbacks. She also served as an associate professor at George Washington University and Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts in sports psychology and coaching education. What a career. It's amazing.
Okay. All right. You want that photo. Okay. The first volleyball team at the University of Nebraska. That was some years ago, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh,
isn't that cute?
That. It is.
It's such a sweet shot.
And look at me right next to Pat.
Janice,
I couldn't get close enough to Pat.
Do you know, Janice, look at that. I'm taller than you.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I'm not anymore. Not anymore. But I'm taller. Look at that. Look at Cheryl. Look at Susie Heiser. My God. That's a lot of her. This was the 1974 team. And I'm looking at the fact that I still had long hair, which is really pretty amazing. And this was a group of people that, boy, if you said time to go run 15 laps or climb that wall over there and carry 2 people on your back, they all would have looked at you a little bit nutty, but everybody would have tried. Everybody would have tried to do it. And it felt like every door was open. There were no holds barred for this group. So it was really kind of fun. And the 2 women over on the right side of my screen, these are the 2 managers who also, if I got up in the morning and said, I don't know, that I needed something, they were the only help that I had. And they would have done anything. They did do anything. It was just really kind of fun. And every single one of these people, now that I'm looking at the group, except number 14. I have not seen number 14 in email exchanges or text messages. Have you, Janice? That's be a deal.
No, I haven't
seen her. But everybody else is connected, which is, and that's over the last year.
It is amazing. It's been fun.
It is amazing. Yeah.
Title IX celebration at University of Nebraska. Be a part of the history, the real history.
That was a lot of fun.
It was like, yay, I got people to play with and they love to play volleyball. And Pat's here and she's teaching us all the things I need to learn to be better so I can beat Southwest Missouri State when we play them. Like Pat said, pretty hardworking group. Like whatever she wanted, we were like, okay, let's go.
When you think about this in any field, in any world, and then I'll specify sport in just a minute, but in any world that you function in, when you're the first people to sort of walk through the door trying to make something happen, there are lots of questions. Who's going to know how to do what? Who gets to do what? Who do you ask to make something happen? How does any of this work? Never mind, will anybody support us? It takes a while to figure out that, oh, wait a minute, we're not getting the support that we need, or wow, we're getting a lot of support. So I think there are a lot of questions. And then once you translate that into the sport world, where every day your body, really your mind and your body have to figure out ways to work together individually and within a group, that if that doesn't happen, then nothing else happens. So all of the rest of the questions just sort of boil up in ways that you can't even understand, because all at the same time, the questions that number 20 has are not the same as the questions that number 18 has. And so trying to figure out what those are and then what to do with them, and then to make sure that body and mind are actually working together is just I think people in general underrate what it takes to walk out on the field to know what to do. Never mind actually excel at it, which is a whole different conversation. I think that the average person who hasn't done something like this will look at it, and the better you get at it, the more those people are saying, oh, wow, that must be easy because look, they're executing at a really high level or at a really good level. Looks like fun. Well, it doesn't look like fun if you don't know what you're doing, and more questions are unanswered than are answered, or you haven't gotten the concept yet that answering one question just generates another one. And that's good. That's okay. You just want to go after it. When I look at this picture, that's what I see. I see a start in not a complete vacuum, but close to that. Hardly anybody knew it was happening except us. And we did pretty well with it.
I love we played in turtlenecks.
Look at that. I mean, for the love of, there just is, yes, the real story behind A League of Our Own, right, is that all these women really got to do what they were doing because men were not around. This was really a World War II, remember, sort of post-World War II, men were off at war. And wow, we've got, so let's make this happen instead. And so that was a part of the underpinning of that, and in a time when there was no way that massive rampant sexism wasn't going to happen, as a part of the whole operation. But one of the very similar things was that those women wanted to play ball. They wanted to play ball. And they were, just as Janice said, incredibly excited about having the opportunity to do it, even though the circumstances were difficult, the challenges were many. One of the things that's interesting for people to know, I think, and maybe this is because we know something about volleyball that makes me think along these lines, is that you have to keep the ball in the air until you don't. I mean, the idea is that you have to put the ball down on the other team's side, right? So just keeping the ball in play, just receiving a serve is extraordinarily difficult. Never mind receiving the serve and passing it to a target. That's an amazing skill, just an amazing skill. And so to watch people, and we're so lucky we get to watch this all on TV now. And to watch people do that and make that look like it is just a piece of cake. I just do this all the time. And of course, they do it all the time. It's extraordinarily difficult. And so, and because if that doesn't happen, if somebody serves the ball to you and the ball hits the floor, it's over. That's it. It's done. You can't say, oh, Janice, pick that ball up and give it to me. Let me try again. It's over.
Pat, what does leave it better mean to you?
The other day, I think it was a first-year volleyball player at the University of Nebraska was quoted as having asked one of the upperclassmen on the team, the question she asked was, are we any good? And I thought, what a great question for a new person within the group to ask, are we any good? How would she know if she doesn't have a comparative point of reference, not at that point in time for this season? And I thought it's an interesting set of questions that I've asked coaches in coaching education on many occasions is, to what extent do they understand what it means to work hard, and what does it mean to be any good? Well, can you answer that question? How do you know if the players on your team or the people you're working with, how do you know if they're working hard? There are all kinds of physical manifestations of that, but really at the end of the day, do you really know what it means, what that actually means? And are you working hard individually, and are you working hard as a group? And a part of that is, I sort of decided a long time ago was about, and this leads to leaving it better, was to understanding in any practice or in any competition where the soft spots are, what was the piece that wasn't quite there for me. And if you asked a player about that over let's say a 2-hour practice, so you had 120 minutes, and you then it would take you at least an hour to ask that person after a practice, what were the soft spots? Every single one of them. What did it mean in this drill? What did it mean in terms of your connection with this person, your connection with the group as a whole? Where were you soft? Where did things need to tighten up? And if we can't identify that, then how do we know exactly where to push? How do we know exactly where to try to dive in I mean, there are a million different ways to look at a 2-hour practice, for example. And it's pretty easy to say, whoa, looks like we did a great job in that drill. But really understanding what it means to be able to do it better, the question really needs to be, well, what are all the pieces to doing it better? Where are they? And can we name the top 10, never mind the top 50, in any given exchange, in any given experience on the court? Or in life, for that matter. And I think that's just an outrageously challenging question to ask. One of the reasons I asked coaches this in the coaching education environment was really because I wanted to know what they thought, because it was always difficult. It was always difficult for me whether this was in coaching or teaching or being an administrator or in anything. How do I know that I'm leaving it better? How do I know that I've crossed a line today that I wasn't able to cross yesterday? And leaving it better for me meant making that happen for everybody else. I had to know that you understood what it meant to leave it better on that day. And because if I can't make that happen, you're my, I'm not bread and butter, but you're the group that I'm working with, or the faculty that I'm working with, or the students that I'm working with, or wherever how do I know that you did anything? And the fabulous part about the sport environment, and you can cut me off anytime on this, but the fabulous part about the sport environment is at least you can see things. We can see things that happen, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I know what went on in your head while you were trying to execute whatever it was you were doing. And sometimes some of it happens so fast that you don't know. It's the wonder of sport. And one of the ways that I think about backing up and talking to a team about bettering the ball, which is, a common phrase. And that, I gave you a lousy pass. Now you have to make something out of it so somebody can hit the ball. And that is obvious. That's like a baseline understanding of what it means from that perspective. It's just like the rest of life. Sport goes in and out, and the way we passed together today maybe felt a little bit better, but that may be an amorphous kind of a feeling. And I hope it feels better tomorrow, but I don't want to rely on hope. And so there are lots of, they're just all those questions to answer. And to me, if we're going to talk about leaving it better, we have to talk about addressing that all the time. What does it mean? What did it mean to you today? What did it mean to you in this moment, in this day, in this week, in this life? How do you know that? So I applaud all the people who asked the questions.
It was a great question, and I thought it was also an amazing answer. One of the older players said, "Yeah, we are good." She's like, "Okay."
Right. Right.
And it was that simple. And away she went with that, whatever that realization was at that moment. It was good enough. And she was going to go out and just try her best. I think one of the things you brought into your coaching that was so beneficial is those questions that you did ask, or the ways that you were asking us or working with us to make sure we did understand something. And I read something about how sometimes when we weren't maybe grasping the concept of some stuff, and I'm sure I was one of those, you were very patient and you just kept working until you found that right way in to have the transition of the knowledge or the next step forward. I think that was one of your really strong pieces for me.
That was one of the things that I thought of when in relationship to trying to make things better was the ability, to what extent people have the ability to tap into other people's thoughts, whether it's a coach trying to tap into the thoughts of and all the athletes are different, or an athlete trying to tap into the thoughts of the person that they're playing next to or with, or who's coming in for them in the next 5 minutes, or how do they know? How do they know what to leave them with? How do they know what the right words are to say? And for me, this isn't unfortunate, but when I stopped coaching and was working with some athletes and some teams, that was a question that I would ask. This is a person. Who are the three people who you really need most to connect with when whether you're playing, whether it's volleyball or soccer or whatever it is? Name me three people, and then tell me what you know about what they need. What did they need in that moment, in that tough moment, not the easy ones. Yeah. We fly through the easy ones. And so many times, again, in the effort to try to make something better and therefore be able to leave something better, you take chances. We have to take chances. We have to take risks that we really don't know the answer to. We don't know if something's going to work. If we knew it was going to work, it wouldn't be a risk. So you're taking a risk, and someone could be emotionally hurt, psychologically hurt, physically hurt, asking somebody to do some things that they may or may not be ready to do. Another thing that happens in a team sport in particular is that people get coaches and people ask everyone in the group to do the same thing. And that's, it's like coaching to the middle, or who are you coaching to? Are you coaching to your top people, your bottom people, your middle people? And so the more we do that, the more, in my own words, just the more mediocrity we end up with, because we don't get the challenge for everybody. Everybody has a challenge point in every single thing that they do.
Hi there, Janice here. I want to take a minute to tell you about something very personal and important to me, my job. I'm the brand ambassador to the Side Out Foundation, and I've been a part of it since it began about 20 years ago. Believe it or not, I was recruited to join the Side Out team by the founder's father. He looked me up online and asked me out to lunch. That's when I got to learn more about his wife, Gloria. Gloria is the reason this Side Out Foundation exists. Her son and husband wanted to give her more time, and it worked. Gloria was this fiery redhead that was so full of energy and joy and happiness. They'd invite me and my partner over to Thanksgiving, and Gloria would dance around the house. She always made me feel so welcome. I joined the team at Side Out for the very same reason we get athletes involved with our Dig Pink program, because I wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself. I wanted to see Gloria have more time, and I was thinking about all my female friends I could potentially be helping. One of the goals of this podcast is to let people know that they can help us help people living with metastatic breast cancer see more tomorrows. How? By harnessing the passion and power of youth volleyball to raise money that will go toward real research and clinical trials that really do give families more time with their loved ones. That's one of my favorite things about this job, is that you can actually see the results of our research and how it helps give people more time. For more information, head to our website, side-out.org. Now back to the show.
How much challenge do you want? I don't know, Janice, how much challenge can you handle today?
Right. Some days it was pretty high. Some days it wasn't.
Right.
And, I think one of the things that goes with that is that I always felt with my players, no matter what they came in with, and maybe even their level for that day, that I knew and trusted, and they trusted in what I was guiding them through, but they trusted in the fact that they were going to be given the best they had that day. And sometimes that was a little below standard, but it was it for that day. Mm-hmm. And when you shoot for that every day and you reach for that every day, it's a really neat thing that happens as they go through that.
That's what lets you know that tomorrow we can come back and do this again, because I trust in what you, my coach, is saying. I trust that the people around me, my teammates, are trying their very best to become their very best, but to make me be my very best.
Yeah. So true.
It's a challenge. Yeah.
I think back on the really, really successful teams that I had coached. And one of the pieces was they got to the point where the leadership of that team and the players were the drivers. And I was just the support. Everybody around us was just the support. But they gathered together and they bonded together in a way that allowed them to have that exceptional success. You work hard to create your luck. I remember having that on the front sheet of my little booklet that I gave to everybody at the beginning of the year, laying things out. And that year, in 1986, I learned that that was not absolutely true, but I hadn't in my entire life felt it to that extent. It was a lesson that I didn't care to learn, but I had an opportunity to. And
it's a helpful lesson.
Yeah,
and
right.
You know what, Janice, your comment, this is important too, I think, that it was something that you hadn't maybe experienced or learned to that point. I don't think everyone learns it. And I think there are people, I think you're one of them actually, who you go through some extraordinarily difficult times, but you don't interpret it that way. I mean, the way we interpret our environment is everything, right? That leads me to thinking about recruiting and how you get at the individuals who really are able to take something that's really challenging and make something good out of it. That's their nature. And how much can you teach that? And you have to constantly sort of play with that and work on that with athletes, I think.
Yeah. Could you describe something that was possibly one or two of your most proudest moments for you? I would love to hear what those are.
Yeah. When I think of the proudest moments, typically people tend to refer to things that came out as successes. And so then you have to be able to understand how you see a success, how you define a success, what was something successful. And in my particular case, my immediate thoughts go to thinking about people like you who are, look at what you're doing, look what you've done with your life. But then you turn that coin over and say, well, I had this much to do with that. Am I allowed to be proud of something that I feel like I didn't have really all that much to do with?
That's what you
so there's that. You have to sort of balance those kinds of things out. When I've had a lot to do with something, I'm going to say I'm thinking about a grant that we had to write that was outrageously difficult, and it was just an outrageously difficult process. This was in an academic environment, and when we got that, I thought I worked my tail off for that, and it happened. So it was in a smaller time frame, and yet the kinds of things that I think of most are the people who I had a chance to work with this person, and look what they became. I had a chance to work with this person, and look what this. Heck, I have gotten myself to the point where I can be proud of someone I worked with, their daughter, who I had nothing to do with. But, I needed some feelings about pride that day. So I think I'll go with that.
So, Pat, here's a question for you about greatness. Have you ever witnessed somebody else being great?
Oh, yeah. So many times. And again, I have attributed greatness to that person, even though they may not have deserved it. I was watching a moment in in an outstanding practice environment where the women on the court completely took over, making the decision about what was good enough. Were we good enough in this rotation to be able to move on to the next rotation? Were we good enough? Coach had nothing to do with it, so it really doesn't matter, who it was. But they were working, and I was watching their wheels spin and watching them shut down, say, no, this was not good enough. This one wasn't good enough. This one wasn't good enough. And then sort of listening in split seconds to why they thought that. That's critical to greatness to me, is to let those people who are involved in the moment be able to take control of the moment, watching them and make decisions about what's good and what's not good, and trying to get them to understand what this was good, but this was great. This was not just good enough, not just good enough.
Yeah.
And I think so. And I've seen that. I have seen that. I'm going to say in my whole life, 5, maybe times where I really thought I'm seeing the group take control in a very important way, and then make something happen, make change happen as a result of that.
So, greatest challenge or challenges, maybe it's even a failure or it's a struggle that was a very important growth point for you?
It's always been trying to figure out what the heck you're thinking and what I'm going to do with that, whether that's been in volleyball or it's so much easier for me to see that in volleyball. I mean, no matter what I did after volleyball, it all related back to that. So it's being able to try to figure out what you're thinking. And again, what questions I need to ask you, and understanding that you may not be capable of answering the questions. So I have to figure out another way to get at that information, and the extent to which I can get at that will ultimately determine whether or not I can control enough of the environment so that you can get better. And I know I can't control everything, but that challenge, that ability, it was hard. And I would say if you talk about something that's 100%, what percentage of the time did I get that right? What percentage was I successful in that? I'm going to give myself 5, 6, knowing that, not selling myself entirely short, that many times 5 or 6% was okay. That was enough to make something else happen. I don't even know what 100% would look like, which is unfortunate, but I don't know. I have no idea. So getting that, again, trying to figure out what you're thinking so that I can get you. What are you afraid of? What are you willing to do? Do you think you're working very hard? Are you being honest with me? Do you trust what I'm saying? What's going on in there? And if you have to ask that, if you have to think about that for all the people you're working with, it's no wonder coaching staffs are a lot bigger now.
Yeah, right.
Than they used to be.
Hi there. I want to take a minute to tell you about the Dig Pink program. You most likely know I've got some history as a head volleyball coach. Coaching for me was about providing opportunities for my players to grow and learn life lessons and to become the best volleyball players they could be. At the Side Out Foundation, we believe in using the power and influence of sport to build student athletes as people on and off the court. Players learn the value and importance of giving back to their community, working as a team, and taking initiative to get involved, all while directly helping people living with metastatic breast cancer and funding game-changing research. That is the Dig Pink journey. Dig Pink gives those wanting to do good a chance to be a part of something bigger than just volleyball. For more information, head to our website, side-out.org. All right, back to the show. What's something that people don't know about you?
Are you familiar with the imposter syndrome? This has been true for me forever. The other people think that you're doing good things and you're maybe excelled in somebody else's eyes and that you've achieved a lot, but you don't feel that at all. You feel like you're a sham. You're an imposter. And I also don't think most people see me for the introvert that I see that I am. Otherwise, I think most people, mostly I've gotten in more trouble for not having good filters. I think most people know. Most people know, sort of who I am. This is what you're going to get. I don't try to hide, but I think the imposter syndrome is something that has followed me forever, for as far back as I can remember professionally. that's a barrier. I mean, I think if I had known that 30, 40 years ago, I think it would have been a little more helpful to because it doesn't let you own everything. It doesn't let you own both your strengths and your weaknesses and use them in ways that will really work to your benefit.
Pat, I did not know that you saw yourself as an introvert. In closing, I'm going to ask you one last thing is, do you have any quotes or sayings that you sort of go by or live by?
I do. And I have focused on this more recently. It's, what have you done today for somebody else? And my father gave that to me. Luckily, I think there are lots of ways you can answer that question. I think it's important for all of us. Mm-hmm. And Janice, I'm going to say that given everything that you have accomplished in your life, I'm going to say that I'm going to be okay saying that I'm proud of you.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you for listening to the Leave It Better podcast, powered by the Side Out Foundation. We appreciate your feedback, so be sure to check out our website, www.side-out.org.